of doing this as a two-part, as a big video with Dead or Alive, but Dead or Alive got way more complicated, and I still have to sort out some issues with Dead or Alive before I actually can finish that part of the video adequately. I've got all the feats down, but I gotta get through some nuance areas with Dead or Alive, so we're just gonna go ahead and do the Ninja Gaiden portion since I'm basically already done with that one. Now, okay, so for this video, I'm just going to be covering the general Ninja Gaiden power scaling of the verse, mainly focusing on the top tiers. Any hacks, resistances, or unique variant powers and abilities are going to be really not mentioned because I'm just focusing on the core stats of strength, speed, durability, endurance, and raw power. That's about it. Everything else will be dealt with in individual videos going forward. So, with that said, we are going to talk about the raw power and stuff. I'm just going to get the other stats out of the way first, because, like, the majority of this video is going to be talking about pure AP and raw power, because there's unfortunately an issue with Ninja Gaiden that isn't as bad as I originally thought it was going to be, but it does have problems to the point where even people just dismiss it outright as, no, that's not possible. Actually, Versus Battle, I'm not sure how this picture up I might. Versus Battle Wiki had a thread for trying to upgrade Ninja Gaiden, and it ended in 5 posts, and they just called it an outlier. Now I'm going to talk about what happened, about what the feed is and what's going on, and then I'll talk about why I think I support it a bit more than they do. Okay, so in terms of physical strength, obviously the first major thing here, we don't have too many feats of physical strength all that much. Superhuman right across the board is pretty straightforward. The best feat is, from what I've gathered, is Ryu blocking the gods to strike in the 3rd game. There is a calculation for it somewhere, but that's just overall the best strength feat. That would scale to Rachel and most of the god tier fiends, or I'll call them deity level fiends just because, you know, that's what the game refers to them as. Or the high level fiends in general, Archfiends, Greater Fiends, those high level fiends would scale to that, especially the ones who survive fights with Ryu, which I'll talk about a bit more about later. So in terms of speed, this is where things obviously get some problems as well, because Dead or Alive is not a series, or Ninja Gaiden, and by extension Dead or Alive, is not a series that inherently has a lot of speed feats on the table. Ryu has lightning timing for sure, because he does fight fiends who can just outright control lightning, and even in the NES games, which I'm not going to use the feats of the NES games because they're in a weird place of canon, which I'll talk about. I might as well talk about it now. So the NES games are kind of canon, kind of not. I think they're like the DMC1 novel, where like the events are canon, but just how they happen are different. So when they asked the creator of Ninja Gaiden I believe it was in an interview, if I remember correctly, from what Reggie sent me, because Reggie Lacey, someone who appears on my streams and all my Discord servers, been helping me out with this a lot. Apparently the guy who runs the games confirmed events of the NES games were canon, which does increase the scaling for Ninja Gaiden and does increase the consistency. I just don't really know if I want to include the NES stuff. This will not be including the NES stuff for this video. If you guys will like the NES stuff, I can talk about that in a separate follow-up video. But basically, lightning timing for sure is no question on the table. He is for sure a lightning timer. Now, personally, Versus Battle Wiki has him at massively hypersonic. I believe this would be sub-relativistic because he is fighting demons who can just control natural lightning and like just lightning in general. And being able to move faster and lightning at its full, like, you know, everything is sub-relativistic, but they just have him massively hypersonic because they do a pixel calc for him. But whatever. However, there are fiends who do fire laser beams at him, and we actually had 3 cases of lasers occurring because we searched all through Ninja Gaiden to try and find any actual concrete speed feats to work with, and there was fucking nothing. There was nothing. I guess bolt timing as well, but that's going to be way less here. So we just went through it all, and the best we could find were 3 enemies in the games who use lasers. And that's gameplay, but I'm okay with using gameplay if the enemy attack is stated to have occurred and the character does fight him. And Ryu does fight these fiends, and they do fire laser beams, so that would be FTL, which should be where he's fucking at with a true Dragon Sword, bare minimum. But we'll talk about that later. So yeah, if there is actually FTL, if they do fire actual laser beams, which again they're referred to as laser beams, that's good enough for me. I understand that a lot of people want the actual properties of lasers and such, and like everything to work exactly like a real laser should. But personally, I understand as a aspiring author that I would not expect every author to know exactly the properties of everything they're trying to put in there, and I think intent matters a little bit more here. Like, they called it a laser. That's what they wanted it to be. People who would scale this speed would be people who can fight Ryu with the True Dragon Sword and survive. The top tiers of the verse, which would include like all the Archfiends and most of their disciples for the most part. And I'm gonna say Rachel will probably scale as well, along with Ayane, since at the very least the ninjas do scale in comparison to Ryu, and Ayane is a character in Ninja Gaiden. I say Rachel as well because Rachel is a fiend hunter, and she can fight some of the more powerful fiends as well, and we'll talk about that when we get to the AP. So I'm pretty sure she would scale at that speed as well, although Ryu is a lot more of an agile fighter. Durability is also kind of weird, as it is in every fictional fucking bullshit universe, because it's a standard fiction. Basically, where Ryu can take several hits and such, and tank blows, but, like, you could stab him, essentially. Like, that sort of situation, bullets will still hurt him and stuff, but, like, energy and stuff he can tank pretty easily, or at the very least he should be able to. Actually, come to think of it, going through all the cutscenes, I don't think we ever see an actual cutscene of Ryu actually taking severe hits, but we do see him get sliced. We do see him get sliced, I think, in the first game, and he gets stabbed, I believe, in the third game as well. Okay, durability, yeah. This seems to be based off of AP, as Ryu can tank blows from people with universal AP with the True Dragon Sword. These swords only scale to high tier fiends, Rachel and Ryu with True Dragon Swords. Okay, yeah, so Universal will actually be Universal Plus, and this is where we gotta talk about the AP scaling here, which is actually 3 pages worth of writing, apparently. Okay, so yeah, Universal Ninja Gaiden. That's what I'm saying here. I've done Ninja Gaiden before. I've done it before. If you guys have watched my videos from way back, you know I've done Ninja Gaiden versus Dante, and you know I've done How Powerful Ryu Hayabusa. Here's the thing. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people call it an outlier. So I'm going to explain to you where Universal and Universal Plus Ninja Gaiden comes from. This will be Universal Plus by default. It wouldn't be Universal. I don't know why I keep saying Universal. And then we'll talk about it, and then I'll go ahead and break, and then I'll provide the evidence, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so Ninja Gaiden's Universal Power Scaling might scale to Dead or Alive as well, but I will not talk about that until we get to the Dead or Alive video. Okay. Now, in order to understand all this, we have to talk about the lore of how Ninja Gaiden was born, because this is where all the majority of the feats come from, is from text that talks about the backstory, so don't expect a picture of these texts for this part, because I got these off the wiki, which directly sources the game. In the bottom section, where they have the direct sources. Okay, so starting off, we have this loser named Gerda, who's a deity-level entity. Gerda was an anomaly. Okay, so basically Gerda is the god of Ninja Gaiden, but so the way he was born, or more specifically the way the Ninja Gaiden verse was born, is Gerda was in nothingness. He was nothing. He was like, there was nothingness. There was a void of nothingness at the beginning of creation, and he got scared of himself. Gerda was afraid of his own nothingness, so in order to not be, nothing anymore, he created the universe, or he created all of reality more specifically. This includes time as well, because again, there was nothing prior to this point, and we'll talk a bit more about time when we get to the next guy. While he was busy creating the universe and shit, he kind of ignored a portion of creation that kept getting more and more evil as time went on. It started getting angrier, more greedy, more destructive, and this ended up creating a being known as Vigor. Vigor evolved over time. We don't know how long it took, but it did take a decent while, because the guy was basically done creating the universe when Vigor showed up. So Vigor then went on to consume everything in Gerda's realm. After he was, fully ready to go, he just consumed the entire reality, more or less. So this is the exact quote here. The ancestor of all evil deities, Vigor, began to devour the territory of Gerda, beginning at its center. During endless solar and lunar eclipses, the earth shook and split, the seas dried up, only to flood into existence again, and intense winds swept over everything, and fires burned down all of existence, ignoring even the concept of time itself. Okay, so right there we have ignoring the concept of time itself, so above time, and burning down all of existence, which matches perfectly with Vigor's, with the territory of Gerda, which is the entire of creation. The Earth, the reason it mentions the Earth is because the Earth seems to be the center in the Ninja Gaiden verse of Gerda's realm. That seems to be where he started, or it at least seems to be, or at least he seems to have some importance, and we'll talk about that later. So during this entire encounter, Gerda couldn't sustain himself anymore. He was getting tagged, he was getting destroyed essentially, he was getting fucking bamboozled. So he gets destroyed basically, and then he splits. But I guess his destruction results in this. He splits himself into 4 deity level creatures who were in control of over 4 separate forms: sentiment, wisdom, immortality, and creation. They all have different names. I think the serpent is creation. If I remember correctly, I don't exactly know what the others were called, but like I know they had names, but I'm just referring to what they actually like possessed as their entity. Okay, so I guess this is the actual quote right here. I do have the actual quote of what occurs right here on the side. During the throes of unending destruction, the body of Gerda himself split into 4. Each part became a deity itself, controlling sentiment, wisdom, immortality, and creation. Keep in mind that deity level characters are universe level plus in nature, so this guy was split into 4 universe level plus entities. Now, when this happened, everyone was tripping balls who came out. Now, the only one that wasn't tripping total balls was creation. So she decided to create a plan. She was like, I can't fucking do this, but I can create something that fucking can. So she decided to plant the seeds of life on Earth, hiding it from Vigor because he was too busy consuming all of reality, and he didn't really care for these fuckers because they were weaker in comparison to him. Because I guess they were weak when they were first born, more or less, but either way, they were still like nothing to him. I do want to point out that they do end up recreating the universe later, but that's after the 13 dragons. So again, creation decides to create life on Earth, tries to hide it, from Vigor for as long as possible. And from this creation comes creatures born with the sole purpose of beating Vigor's ass like a drum. So these 13 dragons are born, they look at Vigor, and they're like, prepare to get your cheeks clapped. And then they have an endless battle with him, which they basically annihilate him completely. The only reason Vigor survives the fight against the 13 dragons is because the 13th dragon is a little bitch who has insecurity issues, so Vigor was able to latch onto that negative emotion to stay alive. Over the course of a couple of, it doesn't specify an exact time frame, but I'll say like a couple hundred years just to be fucking fair. The 13th dragon ends up getting corrupted by Vigor. Now keep in mind, the 13th dragon was the weakest dragon of them all. So keep that in mind. Because after Vigor corrupts him, he gains a lot of Vigor's power, and he proceeds to beat the shit out of his 12 brothers and sisters. I don't know if there's actually a sister dragon. It just says brothers, I think, in the description. And then he begins to destroy reality all fucking over again. So basically, these 12 dragons, in a desperate attempt to save reality, are like, hey, yo, humans, even though we just got fucking destroyed, like, hard, we're going to give you a sword of our bones with the power of all 12 of us and hope you have better luck than we did. And then they just fucking gave all their existence. I want to make this clear. It gives all their essence, everything that makes the dragons, the dragons, their powers and everything. All their attributes go into the sword. All 12 of them. And so then, that guy picked up the sword and proceeded to clap the Dark Dragon. And then he fucking turned his bones into a fucking sword and then split his soul into like 12 different fucking stones. Although it's a little unclear what the power differentiation is. Okay, so now that we've covered... So those are that's the universal stuff for Ninja Gaiden. Now, to be clear, there are several characters who do scale to Vigor and the Dark Dragon. These include the Archfiends. These include potentially some high-grader fiends, although 2 of them who should scale to this level do outright say the Dark Dragon would beat their ass. So it's a little unclear here. But although they are referred to as deity-level creatures responsible for all of creation, personally, when I say Universal Level Plus, I want to make it clear here. I'm pretty sure that the Dark Dragon, and by extension Vigor and such, they're above baseline low 2C, but I do think there are some greater fiends who are 2C as well, or low 2C, so to speak. So that's what I think the situation here is. I don't think it's a massive number, but I'm pretty sure Vigor and Gerda over here are at least 5 universal space times, given how casually Vigor seems to do this shit, and then immediately is able to buff someone to a degree that where he can even beat the people who beat his ass like a drum. So, more on that later. Actually, no, I think it's about it there. Okay, so now that we've covered that, we gotta talk about the 3 main swords in Ninja Gaiden, because this will specifically matter only for Ninja Gaiden, but these are the blades that sort of compare to the True Dragon Sword. So, there's the True Dragon Sword, the Dark Dragon Sword, and the Blade of the Archfiend. The Dark Dragon Sword and the Blade of the Archfiend are comparable to the True Dragon Sword, as their users are able to fight the True Dragon Sword, and the people with the True Dragon Sword, and also it's able to clash. And also the lore seems to imply they're comparable. This is where things get more complicated because there are differences, but it's super fucking weird and complicated, which I'll talk about right now. So first I'm going to go over the True Dragon Sword just to make sure we get this all on the same page. The True Dragon Sword is Universal Level Plus, bare minimum. Its power comes directly from the dragons, connected to body and vigor, and the sword does grant Ryu the power to fight Universal Plus level beings and or beyond, depending on how you want to slice it. Like the Dark Dragon and others on the level of Vigor, like the High Archfiend, or like with the Archfiend. And maybe the Vigor Emperor, because he seems to be Archfiend level. But I don't think he had enough days to actually get his full power. It's like 7 days and then he gains the full power of an Archfiend. I don't think he has the 7 days. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong there later. Okay, yeah, so he's able to fight Universal Plus level beings with the True Dragon Sword. There's also a statement that confirms that the power of the sword does course through him. So whenever he gets the sword, he gains all the attributes of the sword, which should include the speed of the dragons, which while we don't know the size, which we don't know how powerful they are, that should be FTL to MFTL if they were fighting all over creation against Vigor for an eternity. We just don't know the scale of the battle. But I'm pretty sure FTL is fair game, given that Vigor's over there consuming reality. And while we don't get a time frame, it seems to be happening relatively fucking quickly. His power at the bare minimum was moving that fast, given that he was able to burn away all of existence, or all of existence was being burned away. What's the actual statement here? Hang on. And fire has burned down all of existence. Yeah, I'm pretty sure massively FTL here with the True Dragon Sword should be fair game, but that would scale to characters like Rachel. Unfortunately, speed in Ninja Gaiden is worse than the universal power scaling, because we just can't confirm it. The Dark Dragon Sword is the main power of the Dark Dragon who could destroy the universe. It's actually his soul, but it does grant an insane amount of power. It is worth noting that the Dark Dragon's power is also split up among eggs, which hold an immense amount of power according to the descriptions. And while the sword itself is broken by the True Dragon Sword, like Ryu just straight up fucking breaks the sword with one swing, it is still able to be reformed, I believe, in the DS game as well. And then combined with the 12 Dragon Eggs allows the birth of the Dark Dragon, who Ryu proceeds to kill. The Archfiend Sword is the power of the Archfiend, who scales to the Dark Dragon and Vigor, or Vigor, doesn't really matter. He scales to, I'm pretty sure it scales to Vigor, since Vigor's a person in the Archfiend class as well, if I remember correctly. There are 2 major issues here, though. Number 1 is that the user of the Archfiend Blade loses fights to Ryu when he isn't using the True Dragon Sword. So we can assume that this sword, if it does have power comparable to the True Dragon Sword, which apparently it does according to the lore and the description you get when you get both of them, it has to be just a pure AP situation, like a pure just like strength situation of the blade itself, because it doesn't really scale. It doesn't really assume to increase its attributes. I think we do see the energy enter Ryu's body in the 3rd game from the Archfiend Blade, but there's no statement to support this, so we don't know what the fuck's going on there. The other problem is that people don't just immediately die to Ryu with the True Dragon Sword. Now these are greater fiends, and usually it's more powerful ones who can survive outright fights with him. So while the deities and people are surely universal level plus to just flat out 2C, or I guess low multiversal level, it seems there are some greater fiends who are also universal level plus as well, because they don't just outright die in fights. The only real counterexamples here that could cause problems for the scaling come from the worst game in the series, Ninja Gaiden 3, which I made a video 2 years ago, or in 2017, talking about Ninja Gaiden 3. It was mainly talking about the sexiness of the girls in reference to Ninja Gaiden 3, and like how that kind of shows that like the times changed, and like how the games don't really try to have fun for the sake of having fun anymore. Because there was a difference in Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 being ridiculous, and Ninja Gaiden 3 is all serious and shit. Ninja Gaiden 3 is fucking awful. Thank goodness Dead or Alive is the main franchise now, because Ninja Gaiden 3 was fucking terrible. Story-wise, the Goddess and the Pure Dragon Sword are kind of fucking weird. So, Ninja Gaiden 3, the Lords of Alchemy have a plan in place to purify the Dragon Sword. By purifying it, this makes it worthy of a weapon for a goddess, but I don't know if purifying it actually increased its AP or not, or increased its power, because it's never fucking explained. And Ryu needs the Archfiend blade to beat it. So we can at least assume the pure dragon sword is comparable to the Archfiend blade, which would scale to the true dragon sword in some capacity. Ryu, after a clash with the goddess, breaks the swords, and this reveals the original pure dragon sword in a small form, giving it, and it lands back to Ryu. Ryu puts the eye of the dragon to it, and is like, all right, true pure dragon sword. Slice apart the goddess without killing the girl, please, because you can't hurt things that aren't fucking evil. Fucking Samurai Jack bullshit over here. Okay, the other issue is the goddess herself. So the Lords of Alchemy created the goddess to recreate the world in 7 days, and this is a planet level feat. Now, unlike with Vigor and shit, this seems to apply the planet itself. So I'm a little confused to why Ryu can't beat it on his own, because he should be able to fight planet level threats no fucking problem without the true dragon sword. But apparently the goddess is like, nah, go fuck yourself. Now this could be that he's concerned about Kana or shit, but he also had the curse as well at the time, so maybe he thought with the curse he was too weak and he couldn't fight it effectively. Or maybe the pure dragon sword actually does have portions of the true dragon sword's power, which would be really like, okay, yeah, I need to grab that fucking blade fucking now. There's not really any confirmation here why he fucking needs the true Archfiend blade. He just goes to fucking get it. Maybe he just really wanted to have a katana that wasn't complete shit on his side again. But the goddess is like, the whole third game just kind of fucks with the scaling in general. It's the only thing that fucks with it. The first game and second game are pretty consistent with each other. And the goddess is stated to recreate the world in 7 days. That was the plan. And we do see her terraforming the planet. 7 days is a long time, so you could potentially argue that this would be the universe as well, but I don't think the Lords of Alchemy would ever have extended that far power-wise. They were more of like abilities and hacks characters more than anything else. There's also the fact that I think his name like fucking Arthur or something, the fucking brother to fucking the alchemist guy, gets stabbed by the Archfiend blade but doesn't immediately die outright. Now I don't think the blade's awakened at this point, but it might be. I'm pretty sure it's not awakened yet, because I think it only gets awakened during the fight with the goddess. I'm not going to check that right now, because it doesn't really matter, because I think it's just more of slicing that he just has a healing factor. Because healing factors do neg Ryu quite a bit, actually. Well, we haven't seen the true dragon sword up against the healing factor. In Dead or Alive 3, there is a character with a healing factor who's able to take strikes from Ryu just fine, and he's able to get back up, like, no problem. And Ryu's like, oh, shit, he's got a healing factor. Well, that fucking sucks. We'll talk about that with the Dead or Alive video. But that's more or less it. That's more or less the situation with Universal plus Ninja Gaiden, or Universal Ninja Gaiden. There are characters who directly scale to Vigor, and according to the wiki, the Archfiend and some of their disciples do have Universal level hacks and shit. I believe the Vigor Emperor demonstrates this, and I believe the Archfiend does as well. But I think this is more due to scaling to Vigor and the Dark Dragon versus them actually performing the feats themselves, unless I'm forgetting something here. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the Ninja Gaiden portion of this video, or the Ninja Gaiden video. The next one will be Dead or Alive, unless I find more information for Ninja Gaiden. I just slapped that on there real quickly as a follow-up to this video. Let me know what you guys think about Universal plus Ninja Gaiden, or Universal Ninja Gaiden down below. Let me know if you think it's an outlier or anything like that. And if you want a list of who scales to the True Dragon Sword in some capacity, I'll just list it off real quickly, just in case. Alma, Rachel's sister, Rachel, this one fucking, hang on, let me see if I can't find his name. Greater fiend named Marbis, who does fight Ryu with the True Dragon Sword, survives the fight, and then comes back to the human world to get revenge on Ryu. Keep in mind that he only believes that he's only fought Ryu with the True Dragon Sword, and he's like, alright, I'm back to beat the shit out of Ryu, even though he has the True Dragon Sword. I'm ready this time. Rachel steps up to him, and he's like, who the fuck are you? And then Rachel proceeds to beat his fucking ass. So that's why Rachel scales to Universal Level Plus, because she scales to people who can survive fights with, Ryu with the True Dragon Sword, and she beats the fucking shit out of him. While she doesn't kill him, he certainly wasn't winning that fucking fight, that's for fucking sure. The Vigor Emperor at full power would also scale as well. Dark Dragon, Vigor, obviously, or I think it's I'm pretty sure it's called the Vigor Emperor. It seems like their disciples would also, I don't know if the Dark Dragon Blade specifically would make you Universal Level Plus, but it does make you comparable to the True Dragon Sword user, so maybe. So there'd be that guy. I really want to use the Dark Dragon Sword. And I think that's about it. Because then there's also the other Archfiend as well. I'll make like a direct list in the comment section later on. That'll make it easier for me, I think, than just fucking listing them off the top of my head. So with that said, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys on the next stream or video. And yeah.